Avinash, not spotlight me.
Hi everyone, welcome to the closure of Mind Matters 2.0. We'll give it another couple of minutes for people to join in. Until then, I would request all of you to go on menti.com and I'm going to share the code. While we're waiting for others to join in, if you can go to menti.com and type the code 60860322 and share how was your experience of this entire NHRD Mind Matters 2.0. We'll give it about 2-3 minutes for people to send in the responses. You can go to menti.com and type in this code 60860322 while we are waiting for others to join in. You can also type in multiple responses. And for people who are just joining in, while we wait for others to join in, if you can just go on menti.com and type this code and share your experience of NHRD Mind Matters 2.0. We have 5 people who have responded, requesting others also to type. We'll give it last 1 minute for people to fill in the responses. Great. So we'll continue. You can still type in your responses. It is going to be on for the entire period. And I welcome you back to NHRD Mind Matters 2.0. And this is our closure session, and would like to take a couple of minutes to thank all of you for an overwhelming response towards this campaign. Mind Matters is a campaign that we had envisioned last year with an objective to promote mental health awareness as well as to prioritize mental well-being amongst individuals as well as amongst corporates. We had a very successful Mind Matters first series, which was in October, and we launched the second one in the month of May with an intent to help people who are dealing with a lot of anxiety and stress due to COVID. So we did a bunch of things. The intent was to provide a lot of information, a lot of resources by way of our toolkit. and also do a number of awareness sessions so that people can ask their questions to experts. Very happy to share some of the numbers and some of the things that we achieved as part of this entire Mind Matters 2.0 campaign. We had 1.729 million unique toolkit downloads, out of which 39% of the downloads were outside India. We had the toolkit, that's a typo, toolkit feedback of 4.5 on 5. We had about 21 speakers over the last 8 weeks where we did our entire COVID anxiety series. And we had about 1700 plus attendees attend these sessions. If you've still not checked out our NHRD Mind Matters Toolkit, you can still download it. We'll have the link on the chat window, and it will give you a lot of resources, both as an individual as well as an employer. We did a number of sessions, and all the 8 sessions that we did starting from the first week of May till today, June 25th, we did 8 sessions looking at multiple dimensions of mental well-being, be it from a lens of a HR professional or a caregiver or a parent or someone dealing with loss and grief. We also had people sharing their stories of hope and recovery. Did a workshop, a 1.5-hour workshop last week. And here we are today to close this entire Mind Matters 2.0 with senior corporate leaders. If you've not seen it and if you want to watch these recordings, it's all available on our YouTube channel, and the link would be shared on the chat window. Some of the session glimpses, I'm not going to take too much time, but some of the session glimpses over the last 8 weeks. And some of the testimonials that we heard from CXOs, from leaders, from our own HR fraternity. These are some of the speakers that we hosted, the 21 speakers across people who are leaders, business leaders, HR leaders, counselors, doctors, experts. So we had a varied number of speakers over the last 8 weeks. So thank you so much, speakers, for giving your time and sharing your expertise with all our audience, and also giving an opportunity for people to clarify their questions. While we said this is a closure, but we are doing one final session, and this is, we've saved the best for the last, on the 9th of July at 6 p.m., which is a fireside chat with Shaheen Bhatt, who will share her personal story around mental well-being. If you want to register for this session, we'll share the link on the chat window and you can register for this session. We'll be sharing more details about this session in the coming weeks. We would like to thank our partners, White Swan Foundation, which has been a knowledge partner, and also Fulki Communications, which has been an incredible partner for us in this entire journey. Before I hand it over to Devika to take it forward for the panel conversation, I think this will be incomplete without mentioning the people who have worked behind the scenes. So we have people from the NHRD team as well as Fulki Communications who have been integral in this journey for the last 2 to 3 months. I would request all of them to come on video, and we'll just do a quick 10-second spotlight for everyone who's been in the core team. We have Geeta as well. Great. Geeta, you could join. Thank you so much.
Hey, don't put me there.
You're integral to the core team, Krish. I'm not sure if anyone else is there, Shruti, from your team, Anuradha or Henry, but this is, you're on mute, Shruti. Okay, I definitely can't see Anuradha, but no problem. That's absolutely fine. Just wanted to do a spotlight for the entire core team. And thank you so much, everyone.
Actually, I'm Nikita. Let me take a minute. I'm like a intruder in this core team, but I must really thank Devika, Geeta, and you. I think as being the kind of the heart of the Mind Matters. I think the three of you have really led this passionately, and really thank you for that. Of course, supported by Dhananjay and Avinash from the NHRD and Fulki, Anuradha and Shruti and others. So thank you all. But I think the three of you have been leading this passionately. So again, thank you very much. I mean, this can't run without the passion that you have all shown. I mean, this is phenomenal. So thank you, really. Wonderful stuff. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Krish, for your
Thank you.
leadership. I think we can't do it without you either. I'll just request Dhananjay and Avinash if you can just switch on your videos. We'll just take a photograph and then hand it over to Devika. Thank you so much. Over to you, Devika. And I'm going to remove the spotlights.
Thank you, Nikita. Welcome everybody this evening, and special thanks to Krish and Amitav and Gangapriya for agreeing to join us this evening. This is the closing session, really, of the series of Mind Matters sessions we've been having. So as Nikita said, we've had one every Friday for the last couple of months, and each session has been on a particular topic. But I thought today we could, talk about something a little more generic, but pertaining to everybody, who's here in the audience. So the reason we asked the three of you to be on this panel is because all of you hold positions where you can talk from a leadership point of view, as well as having experienced the same impact of the pandemic that the rest of us have. Okay, so very pleased to introduce to the audience today Krish, of course, the president of the National HRD network and head of HR for Infosys. Ganga Priya, who is site head for India and MD of Ford Motor Company, and Amita Mukherjee, who heads up HR for ITC. So I'm going to jump into the session because we don't have that much time. It's only have till 7:30, and we do want to give time for question and answers as well. So Krish, I just want to start with you by asking you to say something about Mind Matters, just to set context and how we've come to where we are at the moment. Yeah.
No, thanks, Devika. I think it's very important, and all of us look at this in terms of why the need for this. Mental health has been a bit of a taboo in India, right? I don't think we've spoken about it openly. And I think it was very much of an issue, but hidden. Now, I think what we've realized, and partly due to this pandemic, is that this is truly a big issue. And over the years, with so many people working remotely, so many people being away from the workplace, this is going to be an even bigger issue. And therefore, it was important to really talk about it and make organizations and people understand it. Yeah. So the first thing, I think, from our perspective, is really increase awareness. I think there is, in a way, if I speak to 10 people, I can easily say that 8 out of 10 would not know the details of what does the symptoms of mental health, what is anxiety, what is depression, what differentiates. I don't think they would know that. So I think that's the level of awareness we need to create amongst lots of people. Everybody who's working, employees, managers, leaders, I think that's number one. Number two, once you create the awareness, the second one is, what do you do if you see this? How do you know you have some of those symptoms, and what do you do? So that's where, in terms of coping mechanisms, what organizations can do, what individuals can do, what is the role of counselors and counseling is very important. I think the third is then the role of organizations and leaders. What should we as leaders and organizations do? What should managers do? I think that's a big one, because I think that's organizations now have to think about it very differently and be much more stronger. I think it was there in many organizations, but I think needs to come out in a much more stronger, easily accessible way, and also support people, enable people, etc. So I think it's very important that this takes center stage, because if you look at well-being as a core of productivity, a core of engagement in your organization, mental health is a very important part of it. Yeah, I think that's come in this pandemic, that's really been kind of heightened, and that's why we really thought about this Mind Matters, to increase this awareness, to ensure that people have the means and the tools to really ensure awareness as well as building the capability to manage it. So that's my quick 2-minute overview on why this is important and why NHRD wanted to take
Yeah,
this.
thanks, Krish. And I think I mean, the entire country and across the world, really, we still have a long way to go in terms of normalizing conversations around mental health and making it part of our everyday life, really, right? And as all of you as leaders in your organizations know, you need all of this: physical, mental, emotional health. You need all of those in tandem to be in good health, for people to be productive and to work with passion and drive, really, right? And that's what in NHRD we're saying, if you want people to work with passion and drive, you need to make sure that all of this is in place, and for us to be able to recognize that. And I know that each of your companies is well in the forefront of the journey of making this, giving importance to mental health, trying to normalize conversations around it. Yeah. So to start off with, I'm going to ask Amitav to tell us a little bit, Amitav, of when now that we are hopefully at the end of this wave 2 and have a bit of a breather before we believe another wave will hit us, but we have a bit of a breather now, and people are talking of coming back to office, right, from the work from home thing. So are you all planning to do that? What's happening? What are you all planning to do, and what are you all anticipating in terms of challenges?
Thanks, Devika, and thanks, Krish and NHRD for having me here. Yeah, Devika, I think we have in the recent past been evaluating opening up the office in some locations. I think a couple of things. One is very clear, is that you can't take a national view on this. It has to be location and region specific, because issues are still very unique in certain locations. The second is, I think when people start coming back to work, one is, I know for sure some actually want to come back to work quickly and meet colleagues, interact. But there are many, and a vast majority are still very concerned that if they come back to work and they start meeting each other, there are risks. Even though 90% of employees are now vaccinated with the first dose, but every day we read about a variant which is an escape variant, and there are concerns, and you just have one dose. So I think the first issue is going to be, even if you come to office, employees are not going to be comfortable doing meetings in enclosed rooms. They're not going to be comfortable chatting up in the pantry over a coffee break. And as HR managers, we'll have to also ensure that the 6 feet distance, masking, sanitization, those are all adhered to.
Logistical nightmare it will be.
Absolutely. So the other challenge is, there are office locations where you need to ensure that in any case you're not going to come, that people are at least safely distanced. And it's going to be a very strange office working environment, that you will show up to work, but you probably will not be going into anyone's room and meeting them.
Wow.
And people may ask, therefore, why am I coming to office? Okay. Yeah. So that's something which one will have to grapple with. And
so
folks who don't have
physical structures of office will have to change. Is that what you're saying?
Well, certainly, you would have to look at some physical rearrangement. You'll have to look at your ventilation systems very, very carefully. For example, there are offices where you can't enhance the air circulation capacity beyond a point. Yeah. So you'll have to have temperatures go up, because you would like more fresh air coming in. Yes. So it's going to also pose an infrastructure challenge, because the more fresh air you have, the lesser the chance of infection within. Yes. So those are some issues which we will have to cope with when we return to work. Very, very partially, though, I must say.
Okay, so and are you and since you and Gangapriya both run organizations where you have manufacturing facilities as well, are you going to have to do very different things for your manufacturing facilities and for your corporate offices?
Yes, they're going to be very different things. Corporate offices, of course, will operate with minimal manpower, come on a need-to basis. If at all we have some rostering. It will probably not exceed more than 20-25% for the next 2 to 3 months. Factories have operated right through the pandemic, but we have adopted a method of zoning. So you only go to the work area you're supposed to go, and you don't interact with anyone else. Canteen facilities are partitioned. Buses are running at 1/3 the capacity, and we are doing a lot of rapid antigen testing. So if you keep testing, for example, in a hotels, we do 25% of the staff is tested weekly. So in a month, you cover the entire population. The random testing also helps. I must tell you that research shows, even though the rapid antigen test doesn't have great sensitivity, if you do it on the same cohort again and again, you are likely to pick up an infection.
Oh, I see. So that just adds to the anxiety, right?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Certainly,
So
it does.
what are you doing then to understand what could be the anxieties that the additional anxieties that these processes will cause people, and how do you figure that out?
Yeah. So, I mean, for example, if you come back and if somebody is symptomatic or a colleague is symptomatic and you've met them, so there will be some panic, there will be concern. So I think the first thing you can do is ask the individuals to stay isolated. They don't need to worry about, for example, in factories, one of the issues will be, will I lose my incentive or will I not get paid if I don't come?
Correct.
So we have taken a policy call that if you're in isolation because you're suspected to have been infected, then your wages will not be impacted.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that there's a lot of education awareness sort of things around this that you need to do so that people don't get unduly anxious about the changes, right?
You have to have the doctors on call. You have to facilitate a test if people are anxious because they have symptoms. They may not be infected, but we are trying to use our capacity to get them tested quickly.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Amitabh. Are you all doing something different, Gangapriya? What is happening at your organization as you prepare for people to come back?
Yeah, I think plants have been working for some time, Devika. So we've been following all the norms. Of course, it is a big challenge getting people into work. And there's constant worry and anxiety about being infected. So we are increasing the pace at which we are vaccinating our employees. So that sort of gives some level of comfort. But, people do commute. So, I mean, pretty much like Amitabh mentioned, we are doing many of those things. We are actually taking a complete look at our air circulation systems so that people, again, I mean, we really need to take care of our infrastructure so that, employees feel that, we have done enough to ensure that they are working in safe environment and that the possibility of picking up an infection in the office environment is reduced to a great extent. So I think that's the other thing that we're doing. And of course, we are doing some redesign of our workplaces, what we call more of the V spaces, but expanding them so that we can maintain distancing. In any case, we are not looking to come back in a hurry. I don't think offices will start functioning or be open to staff at least till October. And if we have the third wave, there is a possibility that we may not come in till 2022. So yeah, so we are quite being flexible about it, but we are also very conscious that a lot of people, like Amitabh said, are also getting anxious about sitting and working at home for long periods of time. They are missing that social connect. They are missing that face-to-face interaction. They are missing that time away from the drudgery of being in one single place day in and day out and having all those household chores to do and so many people in the house in that small space that they have to contend with. So we are also conscious about that.
But doing it in the long term is an entirely different couple.
Yes, that's right. So yeah, and when we come back, it's again going to be a reduced population that would be their need basis.
Okay,
and
so
it's only going to be if it is
slow return then.
Yes, and it's only going to be if you have collaborative work or something which is place dependent. If you have to, that the need for that could only be the reason for you to come into work.
So, Krish, in your industry, there is a I think it's a little bit easier for people to work from home from a business point of view, right? I really don't know whether people will, the majority of them will even want to come back to office. So how are you going to manage those challenges? One, from a work point of view, but two, from also in a team, you'll have half the team who wants to come back and half the team who doesn't want to come back. So then, how are you going to identify one, just the tools to identify these, get the data to identify who to do what for, and what anxieties are being faced by whom. How do you have something that you can use to anticipate that?
Well, no. Firstly, I think as an industry, we are a little lucky, yeah, compared to the manufacturing industry.
Yeah.
We are a bit lucky because as of today, 97.5 or 98% of people are working from home, yeah, so which is like unprecedented, and they're doing that. But I think the challenge for us is very different. If you look at our industry, I would say at least about we hire a lot of freshers, young people who join us every year, 30,000, 40,000 every year, and they're all bachelors. They stay in PG and stuff like that. Now, if you look at it, almost 40 to 50%, I would say, have all gone back to their hometowns. Yeah, whether it is Dhanbad or Kolkata or wherever it is, Nellore, Guntur, they're all there. And they are working. They're all working. They're managing with broadband, if not mobile, but they're all working. They're working. Now, so therefore, we've got a unique thing that a large number of young people who, at the who are all at home, they're not going to come back easily till things are very much settled. Yeah. The mid-level people who got families, who are staying here, they would like to come, but they also don't want to come because of endangering families, etc. They would like to come 1 or 2 days a week, etc. Thankfully, vaccination has helped, because I think we've been, close to 50% of our employees are now vaccinated. So I think that's been going on, and we think vaccination is one way to really help ensure more, at least peace of mind. Yeah, whether it solves or not, but at least there'll be a little more peace of mind, a little more less stress in everybody. So I think that's something which is really helping out. So we've been focusing a lot on it. I think that'll help. We'll have to watch as we go forward. What we see is, because of working remotely, there's a stronger connect within the team. Yeah, the manager and his or her team will get greater connect. They talk a lot more. But that team versus the rest of the organization, a little bit, that the connect is becoming a little lighter now. Yeah, because then the organization, the campus, the canteen used to bring people together. All that has gone away. So I think therefore that connect is going down a bit, and I think we've got to find ways of bringing a little more of that connect. So
tell
again,
me,
there are lots of plus and minus.
your manager and their team connect being stronger, is it that they're making more of an effort now? Because
because they connect a lot more. They see there is a plus and minus to this, because you get more flexi time, but there's nothing else to do. So you have more meetings. So therefore, work expands to fill the time, and therefore you've seen that consciously or unconsciously, many people work late. Yeah, and that's somehow work is filled up, and you now see have meetings late on. So what we're trying to do is telling people, be considerate, don't let them work so much, because there's this, working late hours also, not late hours, working till about 12 hours a day, 11 hours a day, also creates its own stress. So therefore, we're trying to give breaks, reduce that. At the same time, our industry is now is seeing probably in a decade the biggest growth. We've seen the biggest growth in this industry. I mean, like our attrition and stuff and all, like that's keeping everybody awake. So I think that's the other thing. We're seeing the biggest growth in digital. I think companies are, so therefore it's a.
So you're saying the pressures of work as well, and the pressures of health and anxieties around the COVID thing. So all of these combined are.
Yeah, there is. I think the pressures of health has come down. It went very high. I think this again, it's like April, May, it was huge, lots of pressure, family members getting sick, it was like very tough. And I would say almost about 20% of our employees would have themselves or their family members affected, and that really kind of pulled it down. But once things are settling down, now they are much more relaxed. There's more vaccination. You can see that stress has gone down now. I think there is, so therefore it's like a roller coaster. It's very tough to really say, listen, we've got it all solved, because there is, at one time there is a work pressure. Second time, there is a connect with a larger organization that slowly, sometimes you don't see that. You got to try and make an effort to make it. You also have, there is something about working together in a team that makes people happy, and that I think is also not
I
there.
think
I
that's
think therefore
that's what
working
people
alone.
miss the most.
Sorry.
I think that's what people miss the most.
Yeah, working alone,
social
they're
connect.
happy on one hand because they're flexible, they are with the family. But on the other hand, it's again a little bit strenuous, the monotony sets in. So that's the other thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's no answer to it. There are many things going around. I think the
So
key
in
is to
your
really.
industry, I think many of the people in your industry are young. There's a large population that's very young. So they're going home to where their moms are cooking and cleaning and stuff like that. But I think the bigger chunk of middle, people in the middle part of their lives would be with the organizations that Amitav and Gangapriya work with, and would face like a lot of anxiety in having to again just settle into this mode of life, and then having to turn all that upside down again, right? So is there anything that Amitav, that your company is doing or has done to understand and alleviate that for people who are having to who multitask 24/7 now? It's not like I'm leaving home and going to office, and then so I've compartmentalized my work into what I do at home and what I do in the office. Right now it's all happening all the time, right? And more so, I mean, there is a gender divide there, right? More so for women, unfortunately, in most parts, in most households, most parts. There is, of course, hopefully, people who families where everybody pitches in, but in most homes it's the women that take the brunt of it, right? So what can organizations do to recognize and support that?
You're right, Devika. I think one of the most powerful things companies can do is to have senior management and leaders demonstrate sensitivity to this aspect, because this is unprecedented. What is going on now has never happened before, and hopefully won't again. Because, like you said, there are folks where some cases both parents are required to go to work, but the children have to stay at home because the school hasn't opened.
Yeah.
So that's a different kind of a stress.
Yes.
Versus those who are trying, particularly women who are working to manage children at home, if the spouse is not there, and answer calls, it is very, very difficult. So I think amongst what the HR team has done and what the leaders have done is sort of recognize that. We have had a lot of town halls. Employees have raised this question about work-life balance. I think leadership in the organization has said that there is no need for you to, work extended hours, and we must recognize and respect certain boundaries. So that certainly has had some effect. You can also do a lot of signaling by investing in employee well-being programs, even if it is online. And when employees see HR is sponsoring those actively, I think the messaging, underlying messaging is that these are important, that this is a crisis, and that folks are trying to cope with something they've never faced before. And when you do it regularly, over a couple of months, I think employees are realizing there's a recognition for it. Supervisors are realizing that the reason this is happening is because there is an issue. So I think short point is a lot of sensitizing of leadership, a lot of signaling by folks in HR that this is an issue which is right on the table and has to be addressed. It can't be sort of, winked away and you manage. No, you have to deal with it upfront.
So having they're fairly difficult conversations, isn't it, to have?
Yeah, they are very stressful conversations, and people are trying to multitask. And one good thing I must tell you also about remote working is, in many cases, time has become very structured.
Yes.
So, well, you miss the social bonding, you miss the casual conversations, but you move from one meeting to the other, and there's very little chit chat, and you're, to some extent, in the short term, you are very productive.
Yeah.
But you are also very busy.
What then are your longer term, what do you anticipate then as longer term issues that come out of this, right? I mean, this is stress, and that's, you're suppressing the stress basically, and it's going to come out somewhere, sometime, someplace. So that's something to keep in mind also, I think. Right?
Yeah,
Gangapriya, so what what do you think about what Amitav has said, that in terms of sensitizing and all that? We talk a lot about leaders, that leaders should demonstrate vulnerability, because only then people will open up. Why they won't open up if they think that they're supposed to be strong, and and if leaders show that I also have these issues and these challenges, then it becomes easier for teams to open up. So have you experienced any of that in your organization?
Yeah, very much, Devika. In fact, we've been having services like EAP for the longest time. And the uptake of the service used to be really very low. In a sense, you can't say if the uptake is good, it's a good indication, because you don't want people to really sort of be needing help for emotional support. But over the last maybe 5-6 months, we have seen a real sharp increase in the conversations that we are having, one around the fact that you can go to use the service that is available. We have had leaders who have very openly been talking about the fact that they needed support. So I had this one colleague of mine who heads one of our functions, who came and told me that I'm really going through a condition that I'm not able to name, and then I had to go to I used the services of the EAP, and they told me it was anxiety that I was dealing with. And he said every time I heard an ambulance sound, and during the lockdown those sounds were very prominent. He said he would really sort of get very anxious about it. And he was very open about it. He was willing to speak within the leadership group. He spoke to his teams. He took the support from the EAP service provider, and he was also able to provide feedback based on his own experience. And so it was a very live example of somebody who had experienced and benefited from it. And similarly, we had other leaders do so. And of course, employees also. We were seeing more managers recommend the use of EAP. We were using EAP to provide a lot of the grief-related support that we were providing to our employees. So there was a lot more of conversation in day-to-day as part of regular work that was coming through. So and I thought it was a great way to,
With you, with your team, was there anything that, that you were able to share with your team which might have resonated with them and help them to open up?
Yeah. So, I just felt that, working day in and day out in the same location can be quite overwhelming. And though you may not personally have gone through the kind of loss that some people did when they lost parents and other family members, you're just impacted by the loss of others as well, and by the suffering and the trouble that people are going through, that you read every day in the newspapers and see in the media. So for me, it was really about just the sense of overwhelm. I didn't feel uncomfortable talking about it with my leadership group. And I did say that, there were times when I just took the day off because I just felt I needed to disconnect. And I just, because it was too much where, between work, and even the work was all pretty much COVID related. It would start with a report of the number of cases. We had number of people who also passed away, very unfortunate. So I mean, everything was COVID related. What was the support that we were providing for COVID? What was the utilization of that? So even work was predominantly COVID related. So, it was overwhelming. And just to take that break and tell people that, it's all right to sort of be away from office, to take that time off, to recharge yourself. And I was doing it quite often. And, I didn't have an issue talking about it in a town hall, because, people should know that even people like us have the same kind of emotions. Yeah, and I think, that's perhaps an example that I can give.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Krish, do you have any stories that you can share with us about what's been going on with you for the last?
I think, no. I think firstly, if you look at April and May, I think many people, especially in the HR team, were involved, dealing with employees who had, people affected with COVID, and even issues of not able to get admission or running after them, and even in some cases, death of family members, etc. So it's been very tough for many of them, etc. And we've also spoken to them and told them take a day off. I think around after that, I mean, I also sometimes felt myself, there is this thing about, how do I call it? Sometimes you say, listen, when will weekend come? And I had to tell my guys, listen, I just feel like, I'm looking for the weekend, and therefore it's good to, you felt a little bit of all of us are like that. I mean, I felt that I shared it with my team saying, listen, this is like, I'm feeling somehow it's not about, well, one just doesn't have the energy. I just want to take thing, I'm looking for the weekend. Maybe we should just kind of, postpone this meeting or something. So I think those kind of things is what, speaking to my team, talking to them and kind of, doing that. So those are some of the things that, that I've done. I mean, it's
probably
sometimes
gives them permission to admit that they are human too, and need some.
And everybody needs help, and everybody needs a break, and everybody feels sometimes, I think, and at that time there was this article that Adam Grant wrote, on languishing. That really came. And when I look at that, that was the thing that I felt. I didn't feel like doing anything, and I told them, boss, this is the word, you're feeling. And it became a little bit about, actually, that did a lot of good, because people started using it in a way, talking about their emotions, but also doing it in a way which is a little bit more like, breaking the ice, are you languishing? I am languishing. So therefore, it also did a good thing. It's the language helped talk about your own feelings, but also it helped break the ice and make feel that, yes, everybody has it. And I think that was very important. You recognize your own feeling, but also others also say, yeah, we all go through it. So it's not something new or not something unique to me. I think that was important.
Thank you. So I think that article, it's sort of highlighted the extremes of flourishing. We need to flourish. What do we need to be able to flourish? And if we don't have those things, then are we just in like a no man's land kind of thing, which is where I think all of us are kind of still in that limbo a little bit, even though the second wave is almost past us, but there's still this worry of what they're all talking about, the third wave. How much more can I take this? I'm just so tired. There's so much of fatigue, right?
But you know what, Devika, I think one thing about what I've seen about human or people is people are very adaptable, You've been through all of this. Now, quickly, if they've now, they've focused on one cricket test match, they focus on work, they're focused on attrition and what to do. I think things have moved. People have quickly moved. So I think that is the power that we have of people, because I think there are the triggers are there which will make them kind of, think differently and do it. And that's something we got to keep using, because, people can definitely quickly from the lows in May to the end of May to now, I think I see a big change. So I think that what I'm saying that, yes, it's possible quickly to change because it just needs all that elements to come together. The focus on interesting work, the focus on what's happening, things can actually make
so
it.
glass half full. You're saying look at the glass half full. There's a lot of attitude also in this. Right?
I don't know. What do you feel, GP and Amita? I mean,
I think very true. Yeah. Sometimes it's good to be busy because at least it keeps your mind off the other stress around you and the unpleasantness and the tragedy.
Yeah.
So sometimes we feel very occupied.
Challenging, Amitav, in this time. What have you found challenging, and what have you done to to cope with it or to get past it?
At a personal level, actually, both my parents are pretty elderly, and they both tested positive in December. And they had to be hospitalized for a long time. It was a very stressful situation because they live in a different city and I couldn't travel and they didn't want me to travel. So I mean, and neither are you able to reach them at all times. So I think that was a very, very terrible and personally agonizing situation. You are not able to help.
Helpless, isn't it? You feel so
You're very helpless. You're not able to reach out to them. And neither are you able to ask a friend to drop in. It is the nature of the illness is such that very little anyone can do. So, I mean, I certainly decided to, take off work and try everything possible to keep checking on what's happening and what support can I be, even if it is away and from afar. But it was a very, very challenging time personally.
So I think this thing of not being able to help, not being able to support people when you really want to be there for them, that is really, really frustrating, isn't it? And I hope I'm glad they came through it, Amitav.
Right.
So that's good. Hopefully they've had both their vaccines as well.
Yep.
Okay. So we have a couple of questions. And Darpan asks, CXOs are the topmost branch of the tree in the storm. That's very poetic, actually, Darpan. But yes, topmost branches of the tree in the storm to face when everywhere around there are people who need help. It must be really stressful for yourselves, and this stress must be one of a kind. How do you manage with having not only at a personal level, like Amitav and the both of you have gone through, but also at a larger level where you're responsible for the well-being of like everybody in the company, and these are large companies we're talking about, right? How do you manage? Amitav, Gangapriya, you want to take that first?
Yeah, perhaps I'll take that. Yeah, it is. I mean, at one level, you feel helpless because there's very little that you can do. And especially this wave, I felt that a lot of young people were impacted. To hear that they are in an ICU and or you've lost a young employee. In fact, we've lost young employees who have not even seen the office. It's really heartbreaking when you sort of hear that kind of news. So at one level, it is you really don't know how to respond to a situation like that. The second thing is the kind of people are losing family members, and they are not able to do much because they themselves are down with COVID. So you really, I mean, that's another situation, and all of this is for the first time that we are experiencing. I don't think we have experienced something of this kind.
You don't have a precedent to lean back on either. Yeah.
If you look at Chennai, we have had floods and cyclone, and every year there is something to sort of keep us. I mean, there's something that will challenge us, But this is of a kind that is challenge at multiple levels and of magnitude that nobody is really comfortable. Even not, we don't even know what is the right response. But at the same time, I also felt that in the kind of support that we were providing our employees, there was some meaning in that, to be able to sort of help them, whether it's through hospital support or through oxygen or through, all of that, there was some meaning in the work that you're doing. So I just felt that was particularly the
giving them the
positive part of it.
Okay, so what I'm getting from you is giving them the confidence that the company is there for them.
Absolutely. And that, you were in a position to be able to help them in some way. So I thought that was really what was driving us to do a lot of the things. At least personally, I felt that was making a lot of difference in a place where I was in a lot of ways quite helpless and quite numbed by the level of suffering people were going through.
Amita, would you like to add to?
Yeah, sure. I think what Gangapriya said is very true. You feel a sense of responsibility, and that certainly keeps you going even in such difficult occasions. The second, I think, would be that you also have peers in the organization who are probably facing a similar situation in a different manner. They may be accountable for something else, but they're equally stressed. So you talk, you exchange notes, you have casual conversations. You look at leaders around you who are probably going through even greater intensity of pressure. But one thing which emerges is most people are able to keep their calm, are able to sort of deprioritize what they're feeling to be able to deal with what they need to in their roles. Because in such roles, there is no option, there is no backup. You need to
that may not be great for their own health, no, Amita.
True. So you have to find ways to deal with that. You have to recognize that this is challenging, and either it's a hobby or you have to take some time off to focus on something else, even if it's for just half an hour in a day. Otherwise, if you're 24/7 only doing this, it'll actually impact your responses, and at some point you will break.
What are some of the things that you do daily to manage your own well-being? So if you could share a little bit.
So you try and maintain your routine. So if you exercise or you do yoga, whatever you do, you maintain a routine and you stay with that routine. No matter how demanding you may be on your time or others are making on your time, it's important to stick to certain
routine,
and do those. Even if it's reading something different from work, watching a movie with kids and family in the night, it just takes you away from the other intensity around you.
But you're saying we need to do that at a consciously.
Need to do that, absolutely.
Okay. Krish, what helps you? I know you're an exercise buff. Are you not?
I'm actually, I don't know how I built up that brand image. I'm not far from it. But I think I've tried some things. I do a little bit of running and walking, not too much, just about half an hour, 40 minutes every day. So that's something I do. I started trying a little bit of meditation, but I didn't do it for too long. I did it for about a month, and I kind of didn't go on with it. But I think it's been, I try, read some things, watch a bit of sport, little bit. So that always keeps things, keeps your mind on it. I think the other thing is really connect with people, maybe, one or two people a day. I mean, I just kind of call and see what's happening. So therefore, that helps at least talk to them and, you do that.
Non-work people.
Non-work people, even work people who you don't connect regularly, just saying how are you and all that. And maybe, you learn something, but at least there'll be some different talk that is there. They'll talk about what their kid is doing in Australia or something like that. So I think so that really helps a little bit. I think, that's about it. So taking a lot of small breaks where you can really, you've done something, look around, read something, those kind of things really keep you charged for the day. But you're right, it's not easy. I think I've also been, in this pandemic, one thing is while I've been doing all of this, I've had some kind of a back problem. It's just that maybe I'm not sitting properly and I'm doing it. So I kind of, that's something I had to go through. So kind of take care of that and do more exercises. So a new issue to sort out. But anyway, so those are all part of it. I think what I've learned is clearly, sometimes we shouldn't take ourselves too seriously. I think we've got to do what our best is. And also, I think talking to a lot of people helps, number one. And number two, I think in the end, I think as I think GP said, the thing that really makes you feel is in the end, you say, okay, what's the purpose? So getting your team talking, saying this is what, these are some things we need to do. That really makes people much more focused on what they want to do. And, it gives a new energy. So that purpose, building whatever you want to do, it could be a longer term, short term purpose, those things.
So
really.
I'm hearing from all three of you actually that it's that while the routine and doing things consciously for yourself at a personal level is what keeps you well, it's the sense of purpose and driving initiatives that are helping others and moving the organization forward and giving other people a sense of purpose really is what drives you guys, right? That's what I'm hearing from all three of you. There's a question from somebody from Chandrima, who says, we are all mostly stuck in the first level of realizing, oh, I need to call EAP, or we need to put EAP in place in our organizations. But do you all have any specific initiative to coach employees or something to build culture to say that it's okay to reach out to such offerings which are already available? So do you all have anything in place that makes it, that is normalizing it?
Certainly, there are many avenues open. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised when we did introduce EAP. I thought it may not have too many takers, but people really reached out in large numbers. And we had at a certain point in time in some businesses, the counselor said, maybe we will need more capacity.
So what happened that made it okay for people to talk about it?
I think one is, even if you see social media and you see it is being written about and spoken about a lot. And there are people out there who have done well in their careers, but acknowledge that they would have had such mental stresses in the past.
Yeah.
And they have dealt with it, And I think that gives people the confidence that it's worth talking about. I have had people in my function and department coming and telling me I need to take time off because I have certain issues. And with no inhibitions about it. So I think to some extent, at least folks are talking about it and recognizing it's an issue. And organizations are doing a lot. I notice, in fact, most organizations today.
Specific initiatives. I mean, I think that's what people want to hear.
So, certainly. See, for example, we have an arrangement with Fuller Life for counseling. We have an arrangement with various counseling associations and counselors, freelancers. Employees can reach out. Confidentiality is maintained. The company doesn't need to know who is gone to reach, not at all. It's just between the counselor and the employee. We have also now segmented that. So there could be folks who want counseling around a particular kind of issue. So that is available. Apart from counseling, there is general well-being, which of course is voluntary, and if people want to participate in either it is diet or whether it is yoga or other stuff, that has really, there are many takers for it today. People are saying, let's look at it from a positive perspective, preventive action. What can I do that I don't, then go into sort of treating an issue rather than taking proactive and preventive action. So we see a lot of traction for that too. And lots of people rolling.
I think your company was one of the few, who for many years, I mean, that I know of for at least, the last 30, 40 years, have been preparing people even for a next stage of life.
Yeah.
Right? Do specific interventions to prepare, even when people leave the organization, but when they retire, for example, they, actually give them workshops to help them understand what life will be like after you stop working, kind of thing, right? So that's
true. And we support post-retirement also on medicals and all.
That's right. So that peace of mind basically is what you're giving.
Very true.
So,
if I may say, Yeah, so we are doing a lot of work for creating awareness. So one is, we do these workshops for our people leaders on a regular basis to talk to them about what the EAP services, basics of what they need to know about mental health. How do they sort of recognize signs?
Workshops for everybody.
Workshops, and we have been running it throughout the last few months, so that this is for all the people leaders, so that they can help their team members. And then we are also seeing that more people are willing to talk about the support that they've got through EAP. So we also do these testimonials from employees.
You're showcasing those, is it?
Yes, we are showcasing it and sort of normalizing that conversation.
Lovely.
So there are people who talk about, having had issues and needing support, and what they felt after they got the support, and what the quality of that support was like. So we do testimonials, we sort of highlight those in our town halls and things like that. So, there's that kind of work also that's being done.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Krish, just to close this off, I think your company also does a lot of thing around diversity and inclusion, and very consciously provides comfort in those areas, isn't it? So there is a big overlap, obviously, between that and mental health. So I'm wondering whether whether you'll also consciously talk about mental health in those initiatives.
Yeah. I think when towards sometime last year we started something new. We had in mental health, we had something called Samaritans, where we used to train employees who were keen as like the first level responders. So they were like part of the team, they were trained and they could do it. And if people wanted, they could go to counseling. So we had that. Then we started Samaritans for women. So we got more women who just want to focus on women because of the work pressures and domestic violence and various other things. So that has become quite big. So therefore, the network of women, the Samaritans of women. So therefore, they've been really talking to women, helping women, wherever there are. So that I think has been a big focus area. Plus, I think you're right, EAP is there. A lot of discussions. I think a lot more support groups are pretty useful. I've found that people have, each of our DCs have set up support groups where people come together, talk, and get help from the others. So those have been quite positive.
Thank you so much. We are out of time, but thank you. I could continue to chat with the three of you for ages now, but we do have a time restriction. And so my wrapping up takeaway from all of you is really that yes, it is possible. Yes, we are in a state of flux. Yes, it is possible for organizations to put their muscle behind initiatives that can support people and make them more comfortable to talk about mental health, their own mental health, and actually use the support systems that the companies already have in place, right? And normalize it really in the organizations. So thank you all very much. And we do have, audience, please give your feedback. There is a link on the chat that you can give your feedback at. It would be great if you could take a couple of minutes for that. We do have one more session that Nikita talked about earlier, that Shaheen Bhatt said that she would be able to talk to us and give us some time. So that's one more thing to look forward to. This whole Mind Matters thing this is not the end. It is like year on year, we will continue, NHRD will continue to support, the growing awareness of mental health. So thank you all very much for playing such a big part in this. And I look forward to hearing more from you in the future sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Devika. Thank you, Krish. Thank you, Gaganpriya. Thanks, everyone else.
Bye-bye.